This is Evelyn with Magellan College Counseling, and I'm here with a fabulous panel of experts today to talk to you about the career path and the collegiate education path related to sports management and sports marketing. So this is a career that has definitely grown in visibility over the last, say, 10 years or so. And I know every year I have at least a handful of students, our team has at least a handful of students who think they might be interested in one of the little specialties within this larger field. So I am going to introduce Huon Fitzpatrick, who is going to moderate our panel this evening, and he will let the rest of the panel introduce themselves. I am going to mute myself and let these guys do all the talking, and I'm just going to write down all the brilliant things they say in the chat so that we can preserve that for later. So Huon, why don't you take it away?
Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming out tonight. My name is Huon Fitzpatrick. I am a freshman at Emerson College in Boston. I'm on the Emerson baseball team, and I'm a sports communication major, which is pretty broad, and I'm focused more on the sports broadcasting side of it, but I do learn a few things about sports marketing and management, as well as just the sports industry in general. So I definitely do have some knowledge on that, and I will let the rest of the panel introduce themselves.
Awesome. How is everybody doing? My name is Branden. I am the admission communications coordinator at Lynn University, so all the way over in Boca Raton, Florida. Originally, I'm from the Chicagoland area, and I actually had a unique path within the sports marketing world because I actually majored in forensic investigations. However, I took a lot of electives and just different courses within that kind of sports management and marketing field because I actually do my own social media and things like that on the side, which relates directly to basketball. So I wanted to kind of have that all around education when I was at Lynn. And I played on the Lynn men's basketball team for 4 years. And it's just been a really great experience. And I was able to pick up a lot of different things, some in Ted Curtis's class, and then also just things from trial and error on my own. But it's been a really good journey. And I'll pass that over to Ted Curtis.
Thanks, Brandon. Appreciate it. And by the way, he is a great TikTok follow. Absolutely fantastic. So everybody needs to go ahead and follow Brandon on TikTok. I'm Professor Ted Curtis. I am a professor of sports management and law here at Lynn University in beautiful Boca Raton, Florida. For those of you who don't know, Boca Raton is about an hour north of Miami on the southeast coast of Florida. Been at Lynn for now 25 years, and before that had a fruitful and exciting career both as a sports agent and attorney and as a sports journalist. And now over to Allie in Texas.
Hi, my name is Allie Miller. I am coming in live from Fort Worth, Texas, like Ted said, and I actually went to the University of North Carolina and actually majored in sports stuff, unlike it sounds like Brandon. But recently I have actually opened up my own agency representing both brand clients and student athletes in the NIL collegiate space. And so we will hit a year in May. So hopefully I can bring a little bit of a different perspective here from that side.
All right, so for the panelists, I think a good question to get started is like how to get into the business of sports management or sports marketing. Like obviously like college education stuff, maybe in high school, like just how you guys got started in the industry and how the people with us tonight can kind of learn from that and grow as they move forward in their education.
I can go ahead and kick us off here. The first thing I would say is you have a really unique opportunity as a student that the second you graduate disappears into thin air. And that is approaching people in the industry, absolutely just picking up the phone and cold calling someone and saying, I'm a student. I'd like to learn about this. I think I'm interested in this. Tell me about your path. Tell me how you got to where you are. Tell me how you feel about a certain topic. Just stay hungry. And again, you have that unique opportunity. I've had people pick up the phone and absolutely call me back just because I was a student. And there's a level of kind of trust and authenticity in that outreach that is so important to leverage while you can.
Student, you've got 4 or couple, maybe 5 years to do nothing but grow your brand. Branden did this to a T in college. I mean, look at all of the time you have. If you are a high school student right now, let's say you're a high school senior right now, wouldn't you love to go back to freshman year knowing what you now know and change your high school experience a little bit? Well, don't wait until senior year of college to do that. You have 4 years to learn the business, to meet people in the business, and to grow your brand. Branden, how did you grow your brand?
Just like you said, points to that is just, getting out and experiencing things. I went into it, like I said, I was in the lab taking forensics classes. So I just threw myself into the industry, like Allie said, and I just started, learning by trial and error, and I wasn't afraid to try new things. So I said, I played on the basketball team, and I did have, I'm able to jump pretty high. So I dunk and I do different things like that on my social media. But while I was in college, I really wanted to look more of it as the business side. And so just consistently posting content for me was how I started to expand. And then I started with emailing athletic related companies. So maybe it was Powerade, maybe it was Nike, whoever it was, and then going from there, establishing those connections. And so then as I was able to grow my following, these companies and industries were able to come back to me when I met whatever requirements they had or whatever they wanted to see from me. And just sticking with it and not getting down. It's not always going to be a smooth ride, but understanding that everything comes with challenges. And if you're willing to put in that work, that you can break through kind of onto the scene into that industry.
I think that's so true. And I think a key point of that is being able to try something and not like it. And be able to back up a little bit, readjust, but still stay in that sports realm. And, if you take one thing away from this panel, I hope it is that you should do as many internships as possible in this space, not only for the networking capabilities, but to learn, actually, I didn't really enjoy that aspect of sports business. Turns out that's terrible. That's not for me, right? So you've got to be able to know that to divert to something else and find what truly does call to you. I know I actually did not go to the University of North Carolina thinking that I was going to work in sports, and ended up in the sports management courses. Accidentally picked up a history degree, American history through sport, because I just found the right fit at college that I knew I'd be happy with, the right fit, the right environment for me, and tried so many different classes, tried so many different internships that I eventually ended up doing exactly what I wanted to. But I definitely wouldn't be here today if I hadn't tried and failed a couple times.
Huon, can I throw out questions as they come into the Q&A? Is that okay? So if somebody
I'm
wants
sorry.
to
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt. What are the different specialties that fall under sports management and sports marketing? So I guess what are the different concentrations, you might call them?
Everything you can think of. I mean, we're stop for a second and think about when you're watching a game. Look how many different pieces go into the production of that game on and off the field of play. Sports management, I hate to burst anybody's bubble, but sports management doesn't really exist. Sports management is an applied science. Sports management only exists as a function of everything else. It is a piece of communications. It is a piece of marketing. It is a piece of law, of economics, of human resources, of everything. So, when you ask what kind of specializations there are, it's whatever you want them to be.
I tell people that, think that they want to go into the space that sports accounting looks a lot like normal accounting, just with sports elements. Right. So if you think that you're really passionate about sports law, understand that that's really just going to be the application of law within the sports realm. And so I think understanding that you can kind of do whatever you'd like to within sport. I wouldn't necessarily jump into like a super niche kind of area right off the bat. Again, I would definitely try multiple, applications, but at the end of the day, the business of sport is the business of business within the sport realm.
Yep. And piggybacking off of that, in today's day and age, with how everything's very digital, a lot of things are on the web. I take that other approach where I come more from a content creation kind of influencer side, but it's within that realm of sports. I'm dealing with sports businesses, sports companies, sports apparel, and it's just still me doing something that I really enjoyed. It's just within that space. So there's countless opportunities to get involved, whether you're at the management side, you're on, the content side, the behind the scenes marketing, accounting. There's so many different things that you can do within that.
So I have a question. Branden, you're an athlete. Huon, you're an athlete. Allie, were you an athlete? You were not. Ted, are most of the students that come through, you were not an athlete?
I mean, come on, give me a break here.
Well, I consider you the professor.
It was 1,000 years ago, but.
So are most of the students who come through your classes and your program athletes? And is it typical for people who go this direction and this path to have been athletes?
Not necessarily. I think that you have to have a love of sport, and just like if you want to be an accountant, you have to have a love of numbers. Well, if you want to be in this business, you have to have a love and an appreciation of sport. Within our program, pretty much around the country, I'd say about 20% of the students are collegiate athletes, but everybody loves sports, loves talking about it. A lot of high school students who I see, they walk into my office, they say, okay, I love sports, I'm interested in business, how do I put the two together?
And that's almost exactly kind of what I wanted. I wanted to get that information through sports. And so that's why I chose to take my electives within that, because I was interested on that business side of it, of how can you turn something that you enjoy into like a profitable thing, into money, like all the different things that go on behind the scenes was something that I was interested in. And then also sports was just something I was already comfortable with. So it was a natural kind of flow for me to kind of gravitate towards that.
I would agree and say the majority of my major when I was at Carolina actually was not a student athlete at the time. I think, the joke is, those that can't do teach. Well, the running joke at Carolina was those that can't do are in sports marketing. So I stand about 5 foot tall on a good day. So it wasn't an option for me, but what Ted said is absolutely correct. There has to be a passion for the environment, because this is not the highest paying path you'll ever take in your life. And so there is definitely a level of you getting paid in experience. And so you definitely want to make sure that you're enjoying that experience.
Going to make a whole lot of money right off the bat. If you're successful, there's money to be made. This business is a multi-trillion-dollar business. There is a path to a long-term career. But to be honest, young college graduates need to understand that it's not going to come right off the bat.
Amen.
Um,
What kind of questions you got
Going
there,
back
Huon?
to what Allie said earlier, you mentioned like getting internships and doing as many internships as you can. So a question for you would be, and everyone else can answer as well, like what would the best way to get an internship or to get those connections, like what would you recommend for doing that kind of stuff?
That's such a great question. So there is kind of a weird thing about the sports industry, and it is that all 5 of the major pro leagues in the United States and a majority of the minor leagues and other franchises, all of them post jobs on Teamworks Online. It is the place to go if you are looking for a job in sports. So absolutely start there. You can, I believe, I'm sure, filter a search and look for internships in particular. The other thing I would say is the best professors are the ones that, get called. And I know I've called several of my prior professors looking for, hey, I need a kid in social media. Hey, I need a sales guy. And so pay attention to what your professors are saying before, after class. Oftentimes they will have internship experiences or job openings. The other and kind of final thing I'll say is campus recruitment is a big deal for a lot of these brands. I found out about my Under Armour internship through a campus visit they did, right? So absolutely just keeping your eyes open and putting feelers out. You never know when something might pop, but fight for it and be prepared to fight for it, because sports is a very cool industry. And so a lot of people are going to be wanting these positions. And like we said earlier, sports accounting is just accounting. So what that means is, you're interviewing against all of the sports accounting kids and sometimes regular accounting kids as well. So, it's absolutely a trial and error. So play the numbers game and apply to as many as possible.
Yeah, you guys think that applying to college is competitive. Wait till you try to get an internship. The best piece of advice I can give regarding internships is go to the minors. Do not chase a major league team as a freshman or a sophomore. Why? Because if you go to a major league team, you are going to do one thing. You are going to intern in, for example, the sales department, and that's all you're going to do. If you go work an intern at a minor league team, at a small organization, a collegiate-based summer baseball league, a minor league soccer organization, you're going to be doing a little bit of everything. And that's what you need to do, particularly in your first couple of years.
Could not agree more. Sorry,
Yeah.
Branden.
Oh, no, sorry. And then speaking just from a student perspective, I was, in these shoes a couple, not too many years ago, and just actively, reaching out to people and just messaging them directly. People like when they see that you can take that initiative to craft an email, put what you're interested in, why you reached out to them, do a little research on whichever organization or team that you're applying to, and give them some information about them. Like, hey, I really like how, this offense is ran. I would love to be, go here, or I like, the broadcast that you do if you're interested in that sports broadcasting role. And so like, I kind of want to see the behind the scenes of that. So be direct in your emails, but also, reach out to a lot of people, and, even if it's a long shot, it might hit. And so then that, don't limit your own opportunities.
I love that. The one thing I'll add is I'm actually interviewing for a summer intern right now in social media. And the one thing I will add is PDF your resumes and cover letters when you're sending them. It allows you to kind of showcase a little bit of a professional skill and let people know I've been here before, I've done this. So just simple things like that. And then I also sent a handwritten thank you note to every person that ever interviewed me. It's old school, but it goes a long way. Even if it just ends up being an email because you don't have their address, letting them know that you appreciated their time, whether it was for an interview for an internship or kind of like we discussed earlier, just reaching out and asking for 30 minutes of their time. It goes a long way in them remembering you.
Hey, Allie, it may sound old school and it may be old school, but those of us who are the ones who are doing the hiring, we're old school. You know, we are not the TikTok generation. We are the Generation X, those of us who still love the handwritten note. So, you know, when you go in for that interview, don't be cool. Wear a suit and tie, right? Send a handwritten note. Do all of the things that your parents actually are suggesting doing, because the person who's hiring you is not your age. The person who's hiring you is going to look for that handwritten note and really appreciate that.
Maybe for some of these kids that are going into college, like maybe the classes that you guys took, or like the certain clubs or stuff like that that you got into to kind of help grow that portfolio a little bit.
So I could speak to this. I took a variety of classes, like I said, within that sports management and that kind of business slash like marketing degree. And course names are going to vary, you know, depending what school you go to. So school to school doesn't. I would suggest just taking things that you are interested in. So for me, a big thing of that was that marketing aspect, because you could have the best business in the world, you could have the best product, but if you can only get that in front of 4 people, you're only going to have 4 customers. So I was a strong believer in understanding like those practices that you need to be able to get your image out there, your brand out there. And for, you know, other people, your brand might look different than what somebody else's brand is. You might be more, you know, on a logistics side, or vice versa, whatever it may be. But I took a lot of the marketing classes, and then I also took some like sports history, like sports kind of management courses as well, just so I could understand, you know, the basic lingo of the industry, because I really think that is important, to be able to understand what other people are talking about or what they mean when they say specific terms or whatever it is. But in those marketing classes, I learned a lot of valuable information about how just like keeping your brand in a consistent fashion is really good to have retention of viewers, because you're always posting similar things in a similar niche or whatever it may be. So just picking up on little industry tips and tricks like that went a long way for me. And it was something that was great, because in college, all the high schoolers on here, take advantage of those electives and, you know, branch out to very different things. Because if you just take, you know, electives that are right within your course, you're not really going to kind of expand your horizons. And so I was so like science and lab heavy that those marketing classes, those sports classes were so different. It was really encapsulating a lot of different information, and I felt like it was very well rounded.
Can you elaborate on when you say keep your brand consistent? Can you give us examples of what you mean by that?
Yeah, definitely. So, like I said, for me personally, like on the social media side, I like to use the same kind of fonts and put my words in the same places on my video, and then my videos follow similar formats. So, if it is a video, it will show like 3 clips of action. So maybe 3 dunks, a call to action, and then, you know, something at the end like follow me, just so that same thing. So if somebody gets on there and they're scrolling, all the videos kind of look similar, even though there's different information. So people kind of associate you with that image. We did something really cool in one of the classes I took, where there's just certain brands where if you look at the logo, you know exactly what it is. Like the words could be missing, the colors and the shapes are that instilled in your mind that you know what that is. And so that's what I kind of mean by like keeping your brand consistent, like follow the same message, follow same patterns, but that doesn't mean do the exact same thing. Stick to like a similar thing and branch out and try different avenues.
I'd love to contribute kind of 2 pieces to the initial question. The first being, and I definitely want to drive this point home, was as you're looking at colleges, you want to be sure that you're finding the right college for you, because within almost every campus, you're going to be able to find a sports club. You're going to be able to find classes that touch on sports marketing. You're going to be able to, maybe find a football game to go to on a Saturday, right? So making sure that you find the right environment for the next 4 years is vital. And the reason I say that is because I actually went in as a poli-sci major. I had no idea what I wanted to do, and ended up, like I said, accidentally getting an entire history degree because I loved what I was learning about so much that I kept taking these classes and taking these classes. And my counselor called me one day and said, do you know that you have fulfilled the requirements for a history degree? And so that's one of those moments you're like, oh, it turns out I enjoy this, let's pursue this a little bit further. And so I think finding the right environment and then being able to find the sports within it is probably the best path forward.
And I would love,
Go ahead, Brandon.
sorry, I keep interrupting everybody. And I would love to backtrack off of Allie's first statement is finding a school that is right for you. Me being an athlete, I was very fortunate to have a lot of different scholarship offers coming out of high school because I was a state champion in track, and then I also was a basketball player. And so I went and I visited the biggest schools that offered me, and I went and I visited the smallest schools that offered me. And I really got to see where I would want to be if, hopefully, wish no injuries on anybody. But if I tore my ACL, I wanted to go to a school that I would have enjoyed, even if I just wasn't playing basketball. I feel like a lot of people my age, high schoolers going to college is, oh, this is the biggest school that gave me a scholarship, I'm going to go right there. And then you get there and realize, it's not everything you thought it was. You're not, as happy as you were. But if you really take that time to make that decision, it's just going to make your whole academic and your whole college career just so much better because you're going to enjoy where you're at and what you're doing.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. 100 years ago, I went to college to run a golf scholarship, and that was my intent. Was I came out of high school and it was going to be all golf all the time. And then as I started visiting colleges, I realized, you know what? Maybe there's something beyond my sport. The best piece of advice I give to every high school student looking at colleges is start with one question: big or small? Do you want to go to a big school or do you want to go to a small school? Do you want to go to a great big state university where it's rah-rah on Saturday and 35,000 students and you meet somebody new every day? Or do you want to go to a small school, which is much more intimate? And I have two children of my own. They both went to college. One went to a small college, one went to a big college, and they would have hated going to the other school. I do see a question here from Caleb asking, how do you stand out in an interview? And probably the best way to stand out in an interview is to do two things. Number one, demonstrate a skill. Allie and Branden were both referring to that. You have to show a skill that you have, that you can do, that you can bring to them. Don't go into the interview saying, what can you do for me? Go into the interview saying, here's what I can do for you. The second thing is, do not say how much of a fan you are of the sport or of the team. Oh, I've been a Yankee fan my whole life. I would love to work for the Yankees. Nobody cares.
Or worse, they care and dislike it. There's nothing worse than hiring a super fan and then recognizing they're there because they want to be around the players or because they want to tell people they work for the team. But when the time comes to be, taking out the trash or scrubbing the floors, they're not going to be there with your team. So definitely find that line between passionate, knowledgeable, and excited about the space and super fan that's going to drool anytime someone, a celebrity walks by.
I just wanted to come in and go off of what Professor Curtis said about showing them what you can do for them. That's really true. I feel like from what I've learned so far, I've only been in college for a year in the sports industry, but what I've learned so far is just do as much as you can. I started teaching myself how to do Photoshop. I started a podcast. Like, that's stuff that you guys should do. Like, you don't have to continue that. Like, you don't have to like pursue a career in Photoshop or whatever. But if you have some sort of experience in Photoshop or how to do a podcast or like how to run like a social media thing, like that's going to get you a long way, because while that might not necessarily be exactly what you want to do, if you can show someone that you know how to do that, then it makes you more valuable to them.
You guys who are on this, who are high school students or parents of high school students, might not know right now, and that's okay. I was an American literature major and a theology minor. I was qualified to be a rabbi, and that was pretty much about it. And it took a couple of years of learning, going to law school, developing that skill of being a lawyer, to realize, what I was going to do. There's nothing wrong with going to college and not being 100% sure of what you're going to do, but you better develop some kind of skills along the way.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. And that just speaks to like my college career as a T. I went into college, just as that, oh, I'm a basketball player. I wake up, I work out, I go to basketball practice, I go to class, I go to sleep, back to basketball practice. But then I started looking at the bigger picture, like, okay, even if I am a successful basketball player, after 10 years, I can't dunk and play basketball for my entire life. And so then I started to focus on those other aspects, the video editing, things that I actually like enjoyed to do in my free time. And so that's kind of how I went from that path. And like, I went there almost like Professor Curtis said, I went there, I'm going to be a crime scene investigator. I'll work for the FBI, whatever it is. And now I do something, a complete 180. I still can fall back on that other stuff that I went to school with, but I was able to pick up so many skills that made me more marketable to various aspects that I've been very thankful for in that journey.
Good job, Caleb, asking all the questions here on the chat. Given how journalism has changed, is it still worthwhile to go to the local newspapers? Journalism is going to always change, but journalism will always be there. Good journalism is good journalism, whether it appears on a stone tablet, a broadsheet piece of paper, or your cell phone. I think The Athletic has proven that long form journalism still has a place. It's just not going to be on a printed piece of paper. It's going to be on a website. Learn how to write as a journalist, learn the pyramid form of journalism, learn how to be a good professional journalist. And regardless of what the medium is, it'll serve you quite well.
And on the back half of that question, which is super interesting, can you reach out to folks through social media to see about internships? Yes and no. Sports is a really unique world where, the front offices, so the Jerry Jones of the world, are going to be in a suit and tie every game day, no matter what. Be 150 degrees outside, and those guys are going to have their jackets on, right? And it ranges from that all the way through to some pretty scrappy small agencies that let you wear jeans to work, and everybody is under the age of 45. So, it absolutely depends on I would say the actual organization that you're reaching out to about the internship. Nike, Under Armour, probably not. They're probably not going to read it, right? But if you're looking at a more local, maybe a minor league, like Ted was talking about, couldn't agree more. That is a golden place to start a career. Potentially. The other thing is, make sure that you have checked the obvious places. Make sure you have checked Teamworks Online. Make sure you have checked their own websites, because the one thing you don't want to do is look like you were just trying to get an easy answer as opposed to just Googling quickly for yourself, making sure that you've covered your bases so you're not asking a question that's already on their FAQ page, because that may backfire on you.
If there's a team you're interested in, don't just send a general email or general text in social media. Find who the person is and address that person directly and professionally. Dear Ms. Johnson, right? People want to hire students who put in the work. It's really that simple.
Can you guys get into the nitty gritty a little bit? Like, tell us the names of classes I would take if I were a sports marketing or sports management major. What like specifically, what will I be learning?
Very quickly, it's sports management is generally found in one of three colleges: College of Business, College of Education, or College of Health and Human Performance. College of Health and Human Performance are for students who are mostly interested in creating the next great Gatorade or being a trainer. The College of Education is exactly what it sounds like: those who want to go into sports education as a coach, as an athletic director. The College of Business is for students who are interested in the front office. So in our curriculum at Lynn University, which is in the College of Business, you're taking your basic business courses to start to give you a good business foundation. And then sports law, sports marketing, sports leadership and coaching, stadium management, representation of the professional athlete. Pretty much everything you can think of that has to do with the business of sport.
The only thing I'll add is that UNC, it was in the Exercise and Sports Science College in particular, which was rather unique. I think a lot of people generally would assume it would have been under the B school there. And at the time, I did not appreciate it. But now looking back, I do appreciate they did require us to take Bio 101, physiology, anatomy. And at the time, those were probably one of the harder classes, just due to the fact that it's not where my heart, wanted to learn. And so it was hard to kind of sit and memorize the musculoskeletal system. But it is actually really important to understand the aspects of sport that, even though you may not work with on a day-to-day basis, like Ted was saying, all of sport combines in this really tiny space. And so it's so important to be able to just speak at a basic level to your accountant and to your athletic trainer and to the general counsel in the room. And so even though it may be difficult at the time, or maybe physiology is just absolutely going to end your A train, you may kick you onto the B train, but that's okay. Stay with it, keep with it, because in a few years you'll really appreciate it. So.
Vince or Huon, do you have any other questions hitting there?
I think you guys have done a pretty good job. I can't really think of anything if there's something that you guys think of, but I think we covered a lot of the main points.
How about anyone from the audience? If you've got questions, now would be a great time to throw them in the Q&A. I would want to know, again, nitty gritty stuff. What math should I be prepared to take when I start? I mean, I understand that sometimes it's a business program, but we always have the debate: should I take calculus? Should I take statistics? I have a friend whose son graduated from University of Oregon in sports management, and the first job he had was season ticket sales. And I sort of wonder, is that sort of the standard path when you graduate from a business management or marketing program is to kind of be in sort of frontline sales for a professional team. What other sort of first job out of college could you expect to have if you're not going to the admission office?
Yeah. No, it's a great question. I think kind of sales in general, whether it's season ticket, general, is absolutely a great first step. And a lot of people take that first step. I know there are programs that actually specialize in training kids so that they can take their first step there. The program at Baylor comes to mind. It's kind of known for having this huge setup, right? But it's definitely not the only path. And I think what's important is, as you have spent some time in college and as you look and try out different internships and try out different clubs and start to really find what makes sense for you, is to understand how you get there. I knew that I wanted to be an athletic director and still fully plan on being an athletic director at one of the P5. But unfortunately, they don't hire fresh graduates to do that role, right? So what I did was took a really hard look at each athletic director at the time that was in a role that I would have been interested in, and I read their bios and I found the red thread between them. That plus my understanding of the space at the time led me to understand that revenue generation was kind of the new trend amongst athletic directors. So I immediately went to one of the two ways you can generate revenue in sports, sponsorship, and the other is what you discussed, which was ticket sales. So, in doing kind of that long-term look of like where you'd like to be, a path will emerge. And I think, the three ways to really work in sports is property side, which would be your front offices, your ticket sales, your Jerry Jones. You can work brand side, which is where you see the Under Armours of the world, the Nikes of the world. And then there's this sports sponsorship and media space. And that's where you get the Wasserman Medias or the MKTGs or the Momentum Worldwides. And that's where, like Mars Candy, like M&Ms will do their sponsorship of the NFL. That's all done through those agencies. And so kind of depending on what makes the most sense for where you'd like to go, again, just go to their websites. Everybody is looking for interns. They keep things fresh. They have great ideas. They tend to be TikTok superstars when not everyone hiring is. And so there's absolutely roles specifically over the summer where you can absolutely learn more, leverage more, and hopefully leverage it into a full-time role.
All right. And so we'll just do one lightning round. Everybody give us one piece of advice that you would give either to your own high school self or to a high school student who is looking at this path. One piece of advice. Why don't we start with Professor Curtis, and then we'll go Branden, Allie, and Huon, you can wrap us up.
Be a baseball player. And this is what I mean by that is that the greatest baseball players in history failed 65% of the time. Don't be afraid to swing at your pitch. Don't be afraid to take your shot. You're gonna fail. That's okay. You only learn through failure. And once you succeed, you'll end up in the Hall of Fame.
Love that.
Love it. Honestly, piggybacking off of that, that's was going to be my advice, was just to stick with it and kind of see those small goals that you make, because it's really easy to think, oh my goodness, I want to be, Allie, I'm not trying to steal this, but I want to be the athletic director, of this school. And it's easy to get down on yourself if you apply for that job, you don't get it or whatever. But think, have joy in that small journey. Oh my gosh, I do season ticket sales. 8-year-old me would have never thought about that. And just know that there's steps to go. When I first started my journey, I was super excited when I did my first TikTok for $10. I thought I was, the coolest person in the world. Like, oh my gosh, they're paying me to do this. And now I do TikToks for thousands of dollars. So it's like, it's wild that journey you go on, but it's always fun being happy with where you're at, but, still seeing that end goal, but don't get down on yourself and, roll with the punches.
Love it. Roll with the punches. We're on a theme here. Allie.
It's super interesting to kind of look at sports as an industry. They joke that it's 20 years behind everything else, and it absolutely can be. So if you feel like your brand doesn't mesh, or if you're in your internship and you look around and you look different than everybody else in the building, that's okay. I don't think that in high school, I thought that, I could walk in with my bright pink binder and my, little Legally Blonde pen and be successful and build the relationships that I need to do. But I have, and I love it every single day. So recognize that your diversity in this space can be wildly beneficial, both in making an immediate impact at your company, but both in standing out as well, and just recognizing that it's okay to not look, feel, have the same experience as everyone else. You still have a lot to bring to the table.
Love that. That's a beautiful theme. All right. And Huon, our current student, advice for kids a year or two behind you. What have you learned in the last year?
I think for me, the biggest advice would just be to be yourself. Like, don't like let other people dictate how you move through life. Just trust yourself and trust that the goals that you have in life will come true if you put in the work, and just believe in yourself and know that not everything's going to be easy. As everyone else said, you're not going to succeed 100% of the time. You're going to fail a lot. But if you trust yourself and know that you can do it and believe in yourself, then what other people tell you and what other people believe doesn't really matter. So just be yourself and believe in yourself, and you can do whatever you want.
Awesome. I mean, anyone who's played sports from being a little kid should kind of already have that mindset, right? But it doesn't hurt to be reminded of that every now and then. Well, thank you all so much, Professor Ted Curtis and Branden Ellis, both at Lynn University in beautiful Boca Raton, Florida. I have been a couple times. It's a beautiful campus. So many interesting specialties. It's a great option. Division I sports, you guys, yeah? Division I? Division II. Okay, so yes, scholarships. Division II sports. Yep. Perfect. And Allie Miller, who is our NIL specialist. What a fascinating industry that has just kind of exploded in the last year. So good for you for jumping on that bandwagon. And Huon Fitzpatrick, who is pitching for Emerson College. Congratulations on that. Thank you guys all for being here. And thank you to our audience. We appreciate your spending your evening with us.